today about how to navigate back pain. Specifically, say you're dealing with chronic pain and you have a flare-up, but you still want to train. Or you had an injury, a mild injury, hopefully, but you want to train. You want to train around it. You want to know what you can do in order to overcome this pain as soon as possible so that you can get back to training. I have been fiddling around with the microphone. Please let me know in the comments if you cannot hear me, but hopefully this all records well so that I can save it for you. Okay, if you are watching this and you are interested in handling back pain, please, please, please head to the link in my bio and sign up for my 10-day back challenge. It is 10 days of you getting ahead of your pain, starting to deal with your pain. Exercises and stretches to do over the course of 10 days. You will get emails reminding you of how important it is to tackle this head on. You don't want to just ignore it. You don't want to just rest it. You don't want to just hope it gets better. You have to go after it. Okay, when we're talking about back pain, the first thing that we want to do is assess, right? We never want to just go blindly in the dark or do what Susie's doing over there. She's got back pain. Maybe that's exactly what I have. I'll just do what she's doing. Everybody's different. Everybody has different history. Everybody has different characteristics in the way that their body moves, and we have to know what you need in order for you to feel better. So the first thing that we want to do is assess. Now, say your low back pain is in your lower back. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is coming from your back. It could be coming from the hips. It could be coming from your ankles or your big toe, but we're not going to go that far into it. But it could be coming from the hips or the upper back. So we want to make sure that we take the time to assess both above and below wherever the spot of pain is, okay? So when we're dealing with the hips, what we want to do is think about getting into full hip flexion. How is the range of motion from left to right there? I have all of these assessments on my YouTube channel or way back in the archives of my Instagram, but you want to test for hip flexion. You want to test for hip extension. You also want to test for internal and external rotation of the hip. And more specifically, you want to start realizing whether there is a difference from left to right. If there is a difference from left to right, it doesn't necessarily mean that that could be because of your pain, because if you've had that difference from left to right for a very long time and you just recently started developing pain, it could be something else. But if there is a dramatic difference from left to right with internal external rotation, flexion, extension, if one hip is functioning very differently from the other, that could be a source of your problem. So we definitely want to look into that. Your upper back. Your upper back is directly related to your lower back, okay? So we want to make sure that the mobility in our thoracic spine is good enough in order to support the mobility in our lower spine, in our lumbar spine, right? So if we are kyphotic and we don't have the ability to extend our upper back, when we go to do deadlifts, when we go to do back squats, we are missing a range of motion there. And where is that going to land? Where is that responsibility going to land in the body? It's going to land in the lower back. So we want to make sure that we have enough extension, enough mobility in the upper back and control. We want to make sure that we have strength up there in order to help support the lower back, okay? Upper back, lower back, make sure you test and see what your range of motion is there. You also want to make sure that you not only have adequate range of motion, but what if you have too much range of motion? I know so many, usually women, but definitely lots of men, that have an excess range of motion in their hips or their upper back. And it's not that they're lacking range of motion. So if they go and they do all these banded distraction exercises and all these deep stretches, that's not what they need. They actually need control in that end range, right? So make sure that you go through the assessment. Are you truly lacking range? Or are you just trying to gain range because Susie's over there gaining range, okay? You want to make sure that this is specific to you. The other thing you want to test for is strength balance. So is my left leg as strong as my right leg or vice versa? Is it as controlled? Is that leg a little bit more wobbly? Does it not have the stability of the other leg? Test for that. You can do that with single leg standing. You can do that with step ups. You can do it with lunges, split squats. Test to see whether there is a difference from left to right there. The other thing you want to do is strength balance from squat versus hinge. Are you a more squat dominant athlete? Do you prefer not to deadlift? Or are you more like me? Would you rather deadlift everything and avoid the squat? You want to pay attention to that, because if your body has tendencies towards one or the other, you could be increasing volume in your squatting when you're supposed to be hinging or when you're supposed to be doing cleans. Imagine you're supposed to bend over and pick something up, but you decide to squat down and pick it up. Over the course of a week, a month, 6 months, 3 years, you will have done way more squats than you should have done versus deadlifts, okay? You also want to make sure that your strength in those lifts are adequate. So you should be able to squat about 80% of what you deadlift. If you don't, you definitely want to play with those numbers a little bit and attack our weakness there. All right, what else? Technique. When we're assessing, let's look at how our lifts look. Where is there the potential to be tighter, be better, be more controlled, so that we don't run the risk of injury while we're lifting? Okay? Another thing we want to look at when we are assessing is activities both in and out of the gym. I'm looking over here at my notes. So, you want to come over here too? Thank you. I'm looking faster. Okay. My lovely wife Toba is on the camera. But another thing we want to look at is activities both in and out of the gym, right? So, did you start a new sport? Did you start a new job that required a different level of activity or a different set of activities that you're not used to? Do you need to get over that hump of getting used to that new sport, that new activity? What could be the cause of irritation if this is a recent thing, okay? Another thing is, what does your overall volume look like? And I talked a little bit about this with the squat versus deadlift, but look at your training program. Look at your training week, your cycle over the course of a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 months, a year. How many squats do you do in a week? How many deadlifts do you do? How much rowing are you doing? Because that's similar to a deadlift. How many kettlebell swings? If your lower back is getting flared up with certain movements, toes to bar, kipping pull-ups, how much running are you doing? It depends on what the cause of that irritation is. But if you do find yourself being irritated at certain moves, look at your overall volume. That's another thing to assess. Okay? What does your recovery look like between bouts of exercise? Are you giving yourself enough time to recover after having stressed your body? And again, that has to do with overall training volume, but also how many times are you squatting? Are you doing a heavy back squat day and then doing heavy cleans and then doing a heavy front squat, and then by the 4th day your back is lit up? We can easily modify that and change that by just adjusting the training volume. Okay? Last thing, sitting versus standing. Over the course of your day, how much time are you spending in a static position, and can you adjust that? Okay? So, any questions on the assessment? Please, if you have any questions, throw them in there. Toba will try to get to them. Or if you have any questions after watching this live, please shoot me a DM or shoot me a comment. I will be happy to answer them. Okay, the next thing we're going to move into is how to modify. Now, the biggest thing with modification is we don't want this to be a forever thing. We want to modify temporarily so that we can minimize the irritation. We can eliminate the cause of the problem, right? Just take that away for a little bit. Let your body heal. Let it feel good. But the goal is to reintroduce. We don't want to have to not do things forever. Okay, so say if your body hurts with kipping pull-ups or squatting or deadlifting, take it away for a little bit. That's okay. We can get back to it later. But with the goal being, and with the mindset being, this isn't a forever thing. I don't have to never do kipping pull-ups again because they hurt my back. I don't have to never do cleans again because they hurt my back. I'm going to do what it takes in order to make it better. Okay? So modifying. Need to eliminate the cause of irritation. Okay. When we are in the gym, and you're going to the gym and you're like, man, my back is lit up. What we're not going to do is throw on a lifting belt in order to feel better while we do heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, whatever it is, while we get through grace, even though it's only a lightweight, I'm going to do those 30 clean and jerks. It would hurt if I didn't have the belt on, but I'm going to put the belt on and get through it. That's not what we're going to do, because what that's doing is just kicking the can down the street. You might feel good for that workout, but you are doing damage. And your body is going to rebel, and it's going to shut you down at some point. So what you don't want to do is just neglect it and say, I'm just going to put on a belt. The belt at this point, if you are in pain, should be left at home. Don't even bring it to the gym unless you're going to use it for breathing exercises, but definitely not for lifting. Okay? What we do want to do though is find a position of comfort so that we can do something similar to what the lift is of the day or what is required in your programming in a way that you can handle. So one of the things that we can do is more of an upright torso. Over here. One of the best things we can do, especially when we're squatting, is figure out a way that we can maintain an upright position. This is going to be problematic, right? We're putting a lot of stress on that lower back. But if we can maintain more of a vertical torso, it will feel better. One of the fastest things that you can do is to just elevate the heels. Okay, so say you have back squats in your programming, right? If I take this up onto my shoulders and I just do a normal back squat, and I have a big hinge and I have a really short torso, I'm going to end up leaning forward, all the way forward. That's not going to feel good. Okay, but if I raise my heel, can you come to the side? If I raise my heel and I allow myself to just sink straight down, I've now put way more pressure into my quads, but I've eliminated that irritation from my lower back. Okay? Will you be able to do as much weight? Maybe not. Will you be able to get that deep knee bend and get a squat-ish movement? Absolutely, 100%. Will this start convincing your body that maybe it is safe in these positions? Sure. Okay, so elevating your heels is one way to do it. Another thing you can do that mimics the look of a squat. Come over here. Follow me around. Is a step up. Okay? So, look at my leg position here. Does that look similar to a squat? Sure does, right? So say you have 5x5 back squat. Let's go ahead and do a 5x5 step up. Okay, it's going to be a lot less irritating to your back, and it could help you start to deduce whether or not that single leg strength is a problem. Okay? Another thing you can do if you have a modification, say it's deadlifts, how about hip thrusts? Okay, we're going to get it. Sorry, I need to come around the rig. What we want is that hip extension. Okay, so if we get into this hip thrust position, and you can put the barbell here, right? We're still doing this flexion and extension at the hip, but it is a lot less problematic on the lower back. And we're not requiring that load to be supported by our spine. Okay? So these are just some modifications that you can do in the moment for your programming in order to minimize that irritation and still develop strength. Okay? Okay, last thing we want to do in order to, in the moment, start to minimize pain is deep breathing exercises. Okay? It is critical for you to start relaying to your body that you are safe and that you're in an environment that is under control. Deep breathing exercises relay that to your body. So one of the things that you can do if you are experiencing pain during your training session, before your training session, after your training session, is to just stop, lay down on your back, elevate your feet, and take 5 deep breaths, right? You can do that in between sets if you'd like to. You can do that before, you can do that after, you can do that before bed, right when you wake up in the morning. It is a really, really good, easy way to start calming yourself down and giving yourself a safe space to just heal. It sounds a little woo-woo, I'm telling you, try it. Deep breathing is going to be everything. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, how do we start healing? How do we start overcoming this pain? Okay, I can modify, I have a kind of an idea of what might be going on. How do I start treating it? Because we don't want to ignore it, okay? First thing we want to do is mobilize. So now, mobilization means a controlled range of motion, right? So it's not flexibility. We're not just trying to gain range freely. We're trying to get a controlled range of motion, right? So like I was talking before, when we assess, if you are lacking in range of motion somewhere, then we do want to increase that range, right? So maybe you do have to do some banded distraction exercises. Maybe you do have to spend some time in like 3-minute, 4-minute stretches. Maybe you do have to spend, actually increase the range of that joint, okay? If you have a large range of motion, what you need to do is stabilize through that range, okay? So we definitely want to make sure that we do the assessment part first before we start working on whether we're dealing with flexibility or stability, okay? But mobilization means controlled range. Another part of mobilizing is just get up and get moving, right? Like get moving, okay? We're not gonna sit our asses down and just rest, right? Back pain, unless you broke your back, we wanna get up and we wanna start walking, okay? So make sure that you assess how much you are sitting, especially in your job title. Get up, walk around, get moving. First thing in the morning, if you need to go for a 10-minute walk around the block, please do so. Get those structures moving, okay? Walk more, sit less. Another thing you can do for mobilization is establish a morning and nighttime routine. This is critical. It's so important when you first wake up in the morning. We are going to be stiff. Our structures are compressed. We've just been laying there. If you get up and you head to the gym and you're working out at 5:30, 6:30, 6 a.m., and you haven't taken the time to just loosen up those structures a little bit more than you would if you were to go to the gym at 4:30 or 5:30 p.m., then you are going to run a higher risk of injury, and it's just not going to feel as good. So wake up in the morning, give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do some dynamic stretches. I have a bunch of them saved on my IG. If you contact me, I will send them to you. Actually, there's a guide on my Instagram if you want to find them there. But establish a morning and nighttime routine, and this should include not only dynamic stretches, you got your spider lunges, you can stretch your adductor, you can do some pigeon stretches, but it should also include some stabilization exercises, dead bugs, glute bridges, side plank, clamshells, something to lock that hip and remind the hips of what muscles need to be used in order to really stabilize and make it feel good. Okay, so stabilization and isometrics, morning or nighttime routine, or both. All right? Do what you can pain-free, right? When we're in the gym, part of mobility is being able to get through those ranges with control. So say you are going to modify for your lift of the day, you're going to do a heel elevated squat. Well, when you're warming up or when you're building up, maybe you do want to do a few sets with really good tempo, really good control. Maybe you want to do a 10-second pause at the bottom, 5-second pause at the bottom with just a regular back squat. Start introducing that. Start working through that range with control, okay? If something is restricted, work to gain range. I already said that, and that has to do with the hips and in the upper back. What do you need to do in order to gain range or gain stability in the upper back? Sometimes that looks like Superman's. Sometimes that looks like a thoracic stretch on the roller or on a med ball. Where is, according to your assessment and what you did to find out where the source of the problem is, what do you need to mobilize? What do you need to gain range or stability in? Okay? If you have plenty of range, make sure that you work to gain control through that. All right? So, mobility, gaining range, that's one thing. Stability. This is critical to helping the lower back out. Just like breathing exercises, when I said you want to relay to your body that it feels safe, stability exercises also do that, right? Like, so imagine your body spasming because it's trying to control all these structures, and you're like, oh, but you just did, 150 wall balls yesterday. Your lower back is like, I don't know where the fuck I'm supposed to be right now. Like, I'm just gonna freak out and I'm gonna spasm and I'm gonna tighten up all these muscles, and then you wake up and you're like, dude, my back is just locked up. Well, you can start telling your body like, hey, I know I just did that to you, but we do have muscles there, and if they work well, our hips are nice and stable. Our lower back feels good. So you can start relaying that to your body and reminding it that you actually do have those structures there that can make it feel good, okay? So stability exercises, I love to see people that are in a current state of back pain do stability exercises before and after their training sessions, okay? So stability exercises before, they might look like an isometric split squat, it might look like a pull-off press, right? These are great to start telling your body exactly what type of bracing needs to happen, what type of tension needs to be there, okay? I like to see those before because obviously we are getting prepared to move. We're gonna start doing some things. Say you wanna do a WOD, whatever, we wanna start telling the body, hey, we need your lower abs, we need your glutes, we need you there, we need to do isometric squats. I wanna know what it feels like, how tight I need to be at the bottom of that squat, okay? So definitely before. But if you use them after your training session, it reminds your body, like, hey, I know we just went a little crazy there, but I'm gonna shut it down with some resisted hip flexion, with some dead bugs, with some isometric glute bridges. I'm going to remind my body that I have these structures to keep it safe. And after doing all this crazy stuff, I'm going to start reminding my body where my hip needs to be, where my lower back needs to be in order to be in a safe position, so that when I continue on my day, I'm not just flowing loosely, right? I'm not just trying to figure it out. I'm reminded of what needs to happen in order to stay safe. Okay, so doing it afterwards is great. Don't just spend time stretching, spend time stabilizing after your workouts as well. All right, during the workouts, in order to increase stability, let's move slowly through a smaller range of motion. I talked about it a little bit in the mobility part, but when you're working on stability or when you're working on recovering from injury or from a current bout of pain, you want to do what you can, right? So say it hurts with deadlifting, okay? We might take it out altogether, hinging altogether for a little while, but we want to reintroduce it. So maybe we stick to a smaller range of motion for a while, starting to tell our body, okay, let's get strong here, let's get strong here. Once that starts feeling good and you test out your recovery from those sessions, like wait a couple days, see how it feels, then maybe you start building into a little larger range of motion. Okay, do that for a little while, see how you recover from that, start building into a little larger range of motion. Start reintroducing it under control, slowly, from a smaller range of motion to a larger range of motion, okay? And that has to do with squatting, deadlifting, kipping pull-ups, with running, right? Introduce it slowly. Increase your positional awareness, right? So stability has to do with isometrics, pauses, carries. Pauses in your lift are critical when you want to minimize your risk of injury. So what if your cause of injury is you losing stability at the bottom of your squats? Maybe you have plenty of range. Maybe your isometric squats look wonderful, but when you get under a load, you can fall to shit and you're just like collapsing in. Or maybe your cleans, they collapse at the bottom of the squat. Well, a good thing for you to do would be to A, videotape yourself, and B, think about pausing at the bottom there. Get that bar up on your shoulders. Instead of doing just a regular straight 5x5, do a 5x5 with a 3-second descent and a 5-second pause at the bottom, right? Hang out there. See, okay, do a body scan from head to toe. Where am I? Where's my upper back? Am I tight? Am I gripping the floor? Are my hips locked in? Does everything look good? Does everything feel good? Sometimes just taking that pause and forcing yourself to be more aware in your positions will help to minimize your pain and minimize risk of injury. Okay? On cleans, pause. When you catch that bar, where am I? What needs to happen in order for me to be tight there? Okay, that one I locked in. Work on those pauses, okay? I talk about pauses all the time. They are incredible for not only building technique, but building control and staying safe. Okay, what's next? Like I said, do a body scan while you're there. During your isometrics, during your pauses, during your tempo work, constantly think about what is happening in your body. All right, lastly, strengthening, okay? Now, this is one of the most critical components, is return to sport, return to activity, return to full steam, right? We want to be able to do that, and we want to eliminate fear around that, okay? So we want to have a plan to increase strength, okay? So banded exercises, stability exercises, isometrics, they're only gonna get you so far. Yes, we want to do them, but we don't wanna just get stuck in that phase of rehab. We wanna get back to the barbell. We wanna get back to doing something that is more difficult than your demands of activities of daily living, right? So say you have my 9-year-old this morning, he wanted me to pick him up. That kid is heavy. But I can do it because of the weight that I lift in the gym, right? Like I can pick him up, no problem. I want my training to make my life feel easier. Banded exercises are not going to do that. So the goal after rehab and eliminating irritation and feeling better is to get strong as fuck, okay? So we want to return to strength. Start incorporating easier versions of the things that bother you, right? So if it is back squats, We're going to start incorporating maybe some heavier box squats so that we're going through a smaller range of motion. We are going to elevate our heels. We're not going to ignore it, and we're not going to just stick to the barbell. We are going to progressively build with the goal being of getting strong, okay? Same with step up. We don't want to just stick to a body weight step up. Let's work to building some load then, right? That way, when you're going up and down stairs or when you're going on a hike, that's a piece of cake, because I've been doing step-ups with 30-pound dumbbells or with an 85-pound barbell on my back, okay? Your squats, an easier variation of the squat. Say you can't back squat yet, let's do a goblet squat, okay? Let's do tempo squats, let's do box squats, some type of version that you can start building strength in. Deadlifts, maybe you do a single leg deadlift, okay? That's much easier on the lower back, but still develops strength there, okay? Kipping pull-ups. A lot of people don't think too much about kipping pull-ups being a cause of back pain, but if you have an extension intolerance and it hurts you to arch your back, then we want to start building in some tolerance there. We want to build strength there. So maybe you're doing Supermans, okay? Maybe you're doing some back extension exercises. Maybe you're working on your core strength so that you're not just extending at the lower back, but you're actually using the muscles there in order to control that range, right? This part has to stop this part from overextending. So maybe it's a lower ab or a core problem that is causing you to have pain during your kipping pull-ups. Same with running. A lot of people get back pain in running. Sometimes it's an extension intolerance. Sometimes it's a leg strength problem, right? Maybe you're depending on one leg more than the other throughout your run. Hip stability, if you're lacking stability, that will be a problem in running. So when we're talking about strengthening for that and building a progressive program for that, with your kipping pull-ups, let's work on the Superman, let's work on that hollow position, and let's dose in kipping pull-ups in a rep scheme that you can stay tight, you can stay controlled, you can shorten that kip a little bit. You're not struggling through these final reps, okay? So maybe you're doing less volume throughout your workouts, maybe you're doing an EMOM style, maybe you're doing 5x5 reps, but very, very controlled, pain-free rep scheme. Same with running. Maybe you start with a 200-meter run, 3 days a week, see how you recover from that, see if there's any pain, if it feels good. Next week, maybe you do a 400-meter run 3 days a week. But something that is short and sweet and something that does not cause pain, okay? Little by little, you want to increase your overall tolerance of these things, okay? Another thing you can do to strengthen is, right, overall hip, low back, and upper back strength, right? So we talked about the upper back. It's not just the mobility, it's the strength there too. So maybe your back squat is causing you low back pain because you're collapsing at that upper back. So maybe we want to do more front squats or Zercher squats, or maybe we want to do pauses in that bottom position so that we strengthen the upper back. Or maybe we just want to do a back rack isometric hold so that we can feel what needs to be tight underneath that bar, okay? Again, go back to your assessment and think about what needs to happen in order for you to feel better. But I want you to think about not just sticking to and getting stuck in that mobilizing and stabilizing cycle, right? There has to be the goal of strength work, of getting back to those lifts, of feeling comfortable there, okay? We want to be confident, okay? But that takes time and it takes patience. All right, any questions? Anybody or anything? Good. All right, so we did have somebody write a question. She was talking about she has pain around her cycle and is frustrated because it feels like she regresses for 2 weeks out of the month, okay? So A, super frustrating. B, one of the best things that I can say for that is to plan for it and anticipate it and try to get ahead of it, right? So maybe we increase the amount of stability exercises that we do leading into your cycle, and then the first 2 days of your cycle, that's it. You just take it off, you rest, you recover, you allow yourself to maybe just walk, but anticipating that. And then when you are feeling good, what I really would like to see you do is increase your strength and your ability to tolerate things that irritate your back. Because you gotta imagine, say you're this strong going into your cycle, and then you come down to here because you're not feeling good. Well, then this is gonna be pretty painful, right? But if you're this strong going into your cycle. And then for those 2 weeks you come down to here, you're gonna feel a lot better at your low, okay? So I would like to see you, when you're feeling good, really build out a structured plan in order to increase your strength, increase your confidence around those things that cause your back or those points of irritation. I'd also like to see you do all of these assessments, right? Like, let's get to the root of the problem. Let's see what's happening there in order to start building around it and start getting stronger outside of that irritation during your cycle. I think that'll help a lot. There's also a lot of foods that you can eat that will minimize the effect of the hormones that will have on your body during your cycle. So we can look into that a little bit more. And then overall, just how's your well-being, how's your emotional well-being, how's your sleep, how's everything around your cycle, because that will all help you feel better as well. Okay? All right, if you found this useful, please, please, please share with friends, family, anybody. And I will be coming back next week with how to modify around knee pain, and the following week with shoulder pain, okay? So I will also be adding this week some more posts on specific modifications while you're in the gym, mobilization drills, and rehab drills around the lower back. So if you have any questions, please reach out, send this to anybody you know, and I will see you next week.